is there a particular group that this kind of peace deal resonates more with?
Yeah, and look, I think it's going to resonate with what I call sane America, because unfortunately, when you look at the Democrats these days, when you look at what Chuck Schumer's supporting, when you look at what Hakeem Jeffries is supporting, they've basically become the squad. And they're appealing to insane America, whether it's on the shutdown or all these other issues. But I look at those highly educated, independent suburban women who, quite honestly, whereas working Americans, middle class America has been coming over to the Republican Party and Donald Trump. I look at them because they're going to look at this and say, hey, Donald Trump is onto something. And I think there's going to be a lot of Americans that are going to give him a second look. I also think I'm looking at Hispanics. Hispanics have become the ultimate swing group.
All right, guys, good Tuesday to you. I can't believe the 40 hours that President Trump had. This guy left from the White House, flew to Israel, met with the hostages that had been released, gave a speech at the Knesset, flew to Egypt, signed the peace deal, met with all those world leaders, got on a plane, headed back, landed here, met with the president of Argentina, and then today awarded Charlie Kirk posthumously the Medal of Freedom on his 32nd birthday today. More on that later today. But that's just, I'm sorry, for all these people like, oh, I think Trump's losing a step or declining. You tell me anyone half his age that can keep up with that schedule. Unbelievable. A lot to get to today on the show. By the way, Jim McLaughlin, one of the president's pollsters, is here to break it all down. And trust me, folks, if you're a political wonk, you're going to get stuff that you are going to get nowhere else. We're going to break down the coming election. New York, New Jersey, Virginia, the big, beautiful bill. I'm like insight that you will get nowhere else. Sit back, relax, and be ready to be informed, because this is going to be amazing. But yesterday, there was an impassioned speech by the is it the president of Pakistan? But he talked about how historic this deal is. Take a listen.
Suffice to say, had it not been for this gentleman, not only, who knows, India and Pakistan are both nuclear powers. Had he not intervened along with his wonderful team, during those 4 days, the war could have escalated to a level. Who would have lived to tell what happened? And similarly, here in this part of the world, in the Middle East, Mr. President, your valuable contribution along with President Sisi, I think history will remember in golden words. I wouldn't say more, except God bless you. God give you long life to serve like this for all time to come. Thank you very much.
All right, that was the president of Pakistan. And again, that's his 8th conflict that he's ended. Unbelievable what he's done. Now, if you want to gloat a little, I want to play for you a clip of Alyssa Farah. Remember, she used to be in the Trump 1 White House. She's now on The View. And last January, made it very clear that she would be willing to give President Trump credit, but she went a step further. Let me show you what I'm talking about.
My point when I say I'm not going to be apocalyptic, it's not changing a tune. It's not making every single thing a 5-alarm fire. Yeah. If he does good, if he gets the Israeli hostages out, I promise I will wear a MAGA hat for one day on the show and say, thank you for doing it. Yeah. She'll knock it right off my head. But like, you have to be able to cheer for wins when they happen.
Now, I'm not a big watcher of The View, so maybe I'll have to see if this happens online. I don't think it's happened so far, but I'm looking forward to seeing that MAGA hat on The View. Just saying. Anyway, a lot going on. As I mentioned, great show yesterday with Winsome Sears. Unbelievable. And I'm telling you guys, and Jim McLaughlin's on his way up right now. I'm telling you, she will be the next governor. Jack Ciattarelli will be the next governor of New Jersey. And Jim McLaughlin's going to tell me if I'm right or wrong. He's got the numbers. He's the guy that you heard, Robert Cahaley, the other day. The McLaughlins are one of the groups that we should be trusting on this. Tomorrow, by the way, a great show. Senator Eric Schmidt of Missouri, he's going to be here. Glenn Beck is going to be here. Friday, Stephen K. Bannon is going to be here. Oh, this is unbelievable. And a big favor, thanks to everybody, whether you're on the go, watching it on Rumble or X or YouTube, It's always a great idea to have the audio version subscribed to so that you can always get it. You're in the car, you're on the go, you're coming home from work, you're commuting. So if you are on the audio version, great. If you're not, do me a favor, go over to Spotify and Apple, just hit the subscribe and the 5-star button. Make sure we get that rating. That's totally helpful. It helps the show grow, shows sponsors that we're so worthy of their time. I appreciate you guys who did that. Thanks to everyone who watches on video, but there's no harm. Just go over and subscribe as well. Super helpful. Thanks to everyone who already does listen every day on the audio version. I hope that you enjoy it wherever you listen to the show. Before I bring in Jim McLaughlin, though, I want to tell you, you guys see all the delays that were happening because we've got this outdated air traffic control system. In the big, beautiful bill, President Trump dedicated billions of dollars to upgrade it because it's unreliable. I mean, you know how many times we get delays, right? Your flight gets canceled, delayed because of air traffic control, or just pure out safety. And you saw those 2 Delta planes the other day on the tarmac collide in New York, right? We need an upgraded air traffic control system. Thankfully, President Trump made that a huge priority in the big, beautiful bill. There's a company called Peraton right now that's already in the space. It's working with the Department of Defense. It's working in the national security space. It's working with NASA. These guys have the people, the innovation, and the technology to help upgrade our air traffic control system. And the cool part about it is that it's a great American company. They know exactly what they need to do to modernize this air traffic control to make it safer, more reliable. That's what we need out of air traffic control. It could be a huge upgrade. And this company, Peraton, go check them out. Peraton, Peraton.com/ATC. That stands for air traffic control. Peraton.com/ATC. Just check it out. There's no ask, there's no buy, there's no discount code. It's just knowing that we've got a great company that's ready to help America upgrade its air traffic control. All right, guys, before I bring in Jim, one quick little notice. I know a lot of you are smokers or are vapors and are trying to quit. I've got a great new sponsor that can help you, though, right now. These are the Zippix nicotine-infused toothpicks. Check them out right here. These things come in amazing flavors. They're great. They're convenient. They're a great way to help you curb the nicotine cravings without smoking or vaping. Anytime, anywhere. It's a toothpick. You can't check this out. I mean, they literally, you just put it in your mouth. There's no smoke. There's no air. Obviously, you can use it wherever you go. So if you can't vape or smoke somewhere, it's a great alternative. It's a heck of a lot safer. It's available in 6 long-lasting flavors in both the 2 milligram and the 3 milligram strengths. Zippix are perfect for flights, for restaurants, sporting events, anywhere that you can't light up or vape. They're proudly made in the U.S. They are cost effective and it is unbelievable. You can go to Zippix and it's Zippix toothpicks.com. Zippix toothpicks, and it's 2P, zippixtoothpicks.com. Use code Sean for 10% off your first order. Again, that's zippixtoothpicks.com. You must be 21 or older to order. Warning though, nicotine is an addictive chemical. Zip more, smoke less. And even if you're not a smoker, check these things out. They've got ones that are just for energy. So they've got a mocha flavored one, a bourbon flavored one if you want to get that, and even a cinnamon spearmint flavored one. So it's got B2 and caffeine in them. So this has, if you're just looking to get a little kick in your day, not the nicotine, just a pure kick, B2 and caffeine, Zippix is your answer as well. Zippixtoothpicks.com. Use code Sean. All right, it is my pleasure to bring in the president and partner over there at McLaughlin and Associates, President Trump's trusted advisor, Jim McLaughlin. Jim McLaughlin, always great to see you. I need you to bring me some good news today because I'm in an excited mood. This peace deal, I will admit my bias. I've never believed that like big foreign policy wins translate back at home domestically, right or wrong.
You know what? Normally you're right, but Donald Trump has so many successes here. Sean, as good as I thought his second term was going to be, he's exceeding it. He's exceeding even my expectations. And you know, we've been with Donald Trump from the very beginning. And what he's been able to do now, his 8th conflict. And look, I've been doing this stuff for over 40 years. And we've been talking about Middle East peace for over 40 years. And look, we all have our, we go into this with a mindset of, okay, we all know what we're dealing with here. We're dealing with radical terrorists. But I think this is such a big deal. And when everybody was telling us this couldn't be done, as usual, Donald Trump makes the impossible possible here. And I think what makes this different, Sean, is the fact that now we've got the Arab world is on our side. The Europeans are on our side here. So I think this is really different. What he's done, he's isolated Hamas, he's isolated Iran, and thankfully because of the IDF, they basically decapitated all their enemies. So I think this is different, and I think the American people are going to look at this, and it's going to give him. And look, we all get it. The midterms, in many ways, are going to be decided on the economy, but I think this gives him the benefit of the doubt when it comes to the economy. And I think the White House has been very reasonable on this. They inherited a mess internationally. We inherited a mess domestically, and they're going to give president some time, and he's implementing his policies. And I think by the time the midterms roll around, you're going to see a great economy. So I think this all goes hand in hand. And by the way, he's been tying the economy to our national security, as well as bringing war and peace throughout the world.
So when you look at like a poll and you look at the groups, right? So you got men, women, Republicans, Democrats, independents, young, old, whatever. Is there a particular subset of the electorate or the country that you think is particularly or potentially moved by these actions? Like, so is it, hey, he's been struggling with women. They're going to think that he's a peacemaker and they like him now. Independents are going to move with him. Is there a particular group that this kind of peace deal resonates more with?
Yeah. And look, I think it's going to resonate with what I call sane America. Because unfortunately, when you look at the Democrats these days, when you look at what Chuck Schumer's supporting, when you look at what Hakeem Jeffries is supporting, they've basically become the squad. And they're appealing to insane America, whether it's on the shutdown or all these other issues. But I look at those highly educated, independent suburban women who, quite honestly, whereas working Americans, middle-class America has been coming over to the Republican Party and Donald Trump, I look at them because they're going to look at this and say, hey, Donald Trump is onto something. And I think there's going to be a lot of Americans that are going to give him a second look. I also think I'm looking at Hispanics. Hispanics have become the ultimate swing group. We go back and whether it was, Mitt Romney got less than 30% of the Hispanic vote. Donald Trump, the reason why he does so well now in Florida is because he wins a majority of the Hispanic vote. The reason why he won Arizona and Nevada in the last presidential election, which have become, very much the ultimate swing states, is because he won a majority of the Hispanic vote. We don't win a majority of the Hispanic vote. And I think the Hispanic voters, they look at this, they see strength in Donald Trump, and they see that he's bringing peace and stability throughout the world. And I think they just love that. So I'm looking at these highly educated, independent women, and I'm also looking at Hispanic voters. And I think a lot of them are going to give Donald Trump a second look here.
You mentioned the midterms, Jim. One of the things that's happened in the past, at least during this first term, is that it doesn't translate. People will go out and they say, I want to fight for Donald Trump. I want to vote for Donald Trump. I want to put a yard sign for Donald Trump, but I'm not going to vote for who's running in, the 18th district of California, right? And I don't know where that is, but I threw that out. So if you're the member of Congress from the 18th district of California, I apologize. I just came that out. But the point is that people said yeah, it's not the same. And so when you look at these wins domestically and internationally, and let's just say that he picks up the groups that you're mentioning, independents, Hispanics, and women. Okay. If you're the rando member of Congress that's running in a tough seat this year on the Republican side, how do you let some of that rub off and you say, you got to vote for me because fill in that blank?
Yep. And look, Sean, that's a great point. And there are a lot of people that will tell you, people that study this kind of stuff, the reason the Republicans didn't do well during the 2018 midterms was because we didn't turn out enough of the Trump voters during those midterms. There's some people that said anywhere from 11 to 15 million Trump voters sat on the sidelines. They came in, they voted for him in 2016. They didn't come in 2018. What's really interesting is, you look at what's going on in the New Jersey governor's race, you look at what's going on in the Virginia governor's race, okay? And on paper, Virginia should be a better state for Republicans. But Jack Ciattarelli seems to be running better. You know, there's been some stuff that's happened in the Virginia governor's race with the controversy that's happened among, with the Democratic attorney Jay Jones. And I think that race is tightening up. But Jack Ciattarelli has basically tied himself to Donald Trump's successes. And I think the reason he's doing that is because he knows in a state like New Jersey, there was about 800,000 voters that came out for Donald Trump in the last presidential election. I think it was his second biggest improvement state in the country. Even though he didn't win there, he basically, for all intents and purposes, held Kamala Harris to only about 52% of the vote in New Jersey, and he's making an appeal to those voters during the midterms. He's trying to turn out a couple 100,000 Donald Trump voters that don't normally turn out in a New Jersey governor's race, and I think he's going to be pretty successful at doing that because, I live in New Jersey, and all the energy I'm feeling on the ground is clearly about Jack Ciattarelli. And you've got a lot of Trump voters that want to send a message to the Democrats here. So I think that's something that's going to be really, really important, whether it's that congressional race that you're talking about. And I think the Democrats are making a mistake by running against Donald Trump, especially when he's had a lot of these big successes where he's cutting people's taxes. He's cutting wasteful spending, reducing the deficit. He's actually been making healthcare and prescription drugs more affordable. And then he's had these 8 big I mean, think about it, Sean. If you and I would have been talking about this last November saying, okay, after Donald Trump got elected, he would have stopped 8 foreign conflicts. You would have said, there's no way that you could do that. This is historic stuff that Donald Trump is doing. And the Republicans need to talk about it, and they need to expand upon the successes that President Trump has had.
I wanted to start north and go south on the races, New York, New Jersey, and Virginia, but you can't help yourself. Like the Jersey, you jumped into Jersey, so I'm going to stay with it. We're going to go Jersey, back up north, then we'll go back down south again. So let's stick with New Jersey for a second since you brought this up. I thought what was fascinating, and this is the interesting, to your point, Jim, after the debate, they all want to do the gotcha question. Do you support Donald Trump? Would you want his endorsement? Yeah. The idea is it's a general election. Let's back away from Donald Trump a little. Let's water it down. And Jack Ciattarelli doubled down. He said, of course I'd like him. He's been very successful. Exactly. Why wouldn't I? I was so proud of that guy because the normal candidate's a wuss and says, I'm running my own race. Donald Trump's the president and I'll work with him. But right now I'm focused on X state. Jack Ciattarelli said, are you kidding me? This guy's been unbelievably successful domestically and internationally. I welcome his support. I welcome him here in New Jersey. Was that a shock to you based on just how long you've been doing this and looking at campaigns? And I know Jack personally. So what did that shock you at all strategically?
No, because Jack gets it. Yeah, and you know what? You know why Jack gets it? Jack Ciattarelli does this really weird thing. And I'm watching this as an outsider. I'm not involved directly in the campaign. What Jack Ciattarelli actually does is, and I the only reason I know this is because I read it from the New York Post. The New York Post said last week he did 25 events where he was out there talking to voters. He's out there every single day. So what he's feeling on the ground is the intensity of support that Jack Ciattarelli has, that Donald Trump has. So he talks to people every day. He knows how much they support Donald Trump and what he's doing at the national and the international level. And look, your typical taxpayer in New Jersey is getting a $4,000 tax break from the big, beautiful bill, because they voted to increase the state and local tax deduction there. So they're getting a property tax break. They're going to get a income tax break. And you know what? His opponent, Mikie Sherrill, she voted against that. But Mikie Sherrill is basically telling you in New Jersey that your taxes aren't too high and they need to be even higher. So that's why it didn't surprise me. And he gets it. What he's trying to do is he's creating his own brand. He's creating his own New Jersey brand. And what he also wants to do, he's sending a message to the Trump voters, come out. All you Trump voters that don't necessarily come out during these off-year gubernatorial elections, I'm going to be there for you. And, I think it also points to the fact that that Donald Trump has really changed. And it wasn't me that said this. Listen to Charlemagne the God. I never thought I'd be quoting Charlemagne the God. What he was talking about with the peace agreement, he said, look, what Donald Trump has proven that if you focus on something, you're actually innovative and you go out there and try to solve people's problems, you can do it. And I think that's what Jack Ciattarelli is tapping into in New Jersey. And he's getting those working class voters. And I think you're going to see a really big turnout. And he's trying to skew turnout because Democrats outnumber Republicans by about 14 points in New Jersey. Jeez. So he's trying to get the base out. And I think he's motivating. I think he's doing a great job doing it.
What issues are driving people to turn out and to get excited in New Jersey? Like what are those fun on both sides? Just so I understand, like what are those fundamental issues that if you're a Democrat, you believe, is it just that you hate Trump? If you're a Republican, what is it that's getting you motivated to vote for Jack Ciattarelli?
It's affordability, and affordability in New Jersey. And the Democrats have controlled the state legislature there for the last 25 years. Voters want change. Nearly 6 out of 10 voters statewide in New Jersey are telling you the state is off on the wrong track. Now, Mikie Sherrill is trying to blame the affordability problems on the Republicans. She's saying utility rates. It's because she's blaming it on, the Republicans not supporting these crazy wind solar projects, etc. When meanwhile, Phil Murphy, who's supporting her, she's supporting
the current governor.
him. He shut down 6 clean energy plants in the state, natural gas and nuclear energy plants. And you want to know why your utility bills have gone up? They've gone up 30% just since the summer. Why? Because the Democrats, with their crazy Green New Deal stuff, they closed down these good plants. And by the way, these clean natural gas plants that the Europeans consider, clean energy plants, they're shutting them down there. I mean, it's just crazy. And that's what's driving up the rates. And then obviously their property tax increases, their crazy spending increases. But those are the issues that are on the table in New Jersey. It's really about affordability. And then the other thing that's going on in New Jersey, and I'm telling you, especially up in North Jersey, there's a Mamdani effect there because New York City's getting ready to elect a socialist there. And people in northern New Jersey, they don't want these same, crazy policies that are going on in New York City. They don't want them coming over to New Jersey. And they get it. When New York City goes crazy, it hurts us in a place like northern New Jersey there. And as soon as Mamdani won the primary, even though she's trying to back away from it now, Mikie Sherrill said she was going to support Mamdani for New York City mayor. And it just goes to show you how radical that the Democratic Party has become.
That's amazing. So is it, just so I'm understanding this, is Mikie Sherrill, the Democrat, saying that in New Jersey it's unaffordable, but even though Phil Murphy is the Democratic governor now, he has been for 2 terms, it's a Democratic legislature in New Jersey, it's the Republicans' fault. I mean, and I don't want to make sure I get this. It's the Republicans' fault that the Democrats have made New Jersey unaffordable.
That's exactly what she's saying. Even though Phil Murphy's been governor for the last 8 years, the Democrats have controlled the county legislature and given us all this crazy spending, higher taxes over the last 25 years. She's saying it's all the Republicans' fault. She blames it on Donald Trump and the Republicans. That's why things are so unaffordable there. And it's really interesting. And what it goes to show you, they knew they were in trouble and how desperate they are. That first ad she put up, where she said, that she basically lied. I shouldn't say basically, she's lying, where she says that Jack Ciattarelli supported a 10% sales tax increase in New Jersey. Jack Ciattarelli wasn't talking about New Jersey. He was talking about what they do in Tennessee, where they don't have an income tax. It's a flat out lie. And you notice how she phrased it. I think she says Jack Ciattarelli's putting a 10% sales tax on the table. She doesn't say he supports it. but that's what she's trying to say there. And it goes to, they've known from the very beginning here, they're in trouble. She's a really, really bad candidate. And I talked about how Jack Ciattarelli did about 25 events last week. They basically don't do events with her. They don't do typical events where she goes out there, see regular people. They might put her out there once or twice a week, and they're staged Democratic events with a bunch of Democratic operatives.
I was going to ask you about that because to me, the candidate quality issue is another thing. On paper, Mikie Sherrill, the Democrat nominee for governor in New Jersey, who's a current U.S. Congresswoman, I think she's a Navy veteran. She's an Academy graduate of the Naval Academy. She obviously served in Congress. Like, on paper, I think the Democrats thought, wow, we got a great recruit. Now you've got this Naval Academy scandal where she didn't get to walk with her graduating class because of a cheating scandal that she has yet to be open about. Yeah. She is hiding, according to Ciattarelli's folks. To your point, he's doing all these events. She's not. Is there a little bit of, wow, she was good on paper, but not a great candidate in practice?
Yeah, I don't think there was any question. It's very similar to what we saw with Kamala Harris. She had the resume, but then once those lights get shining on you, and what's been interesting about this race, Jack kind of made it a race 4 years ago. Jack Ciattarelli made it a race 4 years ago towards the end. But people have believed from the very beginning that this was going to be a competitive race. There's obviously been multiple polls that have had the race for all intents and purposes a dead heat. The summit even had Jack Ciattarelli up by a point or two. So I think the more that the spotlight has shown on her, the worse she's been as a candidate. And you're right. I think that's why a lot of the, kind of the Democratic machine in New Jersey, they came out behind her. That's why she won the primary, was because she had a lot of the political bosses throughout the state that were already supporting her. And I think the more that she's been exposed to the electorate, even something like all she talks about, by the way, how she's been a Navy pilot. And now we're finding out she was in the middle of the cheating scandal when she was at the Naval Academy. So, she's really been on defense this whole campaign. And Jack Ciattarelli and his campaign have done a really good job of going on offense and talking about the issues that are most important to the voters in New Jersey.
All right, last question before I move back up to New York. Mechanics are a key component of any campaign. The ground game, getting your digital effort out there, all that kind of stuff. When you look at the current state, you live there in New Jersey, you obviously, people are mailing you, you're seeing the digital ads, the TV ads. Does Ciattarelli have the support and the mechanics that he needs to win, or is he going to need someone to parachute in the last few weeks?
That's a great question. The people that are running his campaign, like I've been fortunate enough, and this is probably inside baseball, and I haven't spoken to him in a while, but the new head of the New Jersey Republican Party is somebody by the name of Glenn Paulson. Glenn Paulson ran the Burlington County Party for years. And look, you and I know we've been working on campaigns for a long time. The local county party, you're just happy if they're not hurting you. They usually don't help you. But Glenn Paulson for years was electing Republicans in a place like Burlington County where the Democrats had a registration advantage. He understands the importance of a ground game. He's doing things, and his executive director, Katie Gibbs, she's terrific. She, by the way, she used to work with the operating engineers, who a lot of times who are actually supporting Jack. And that they've supported a lot of Democrats over the years. They understand the importance of the grassroots. They also understand the importance of social media when it comes to modern campaigning. So I feel really good about what they've been doing. There was just an article I read about how they're talking about, they're working with the RNC in terms of trying to turn out, these Trump voters who don't normally turn out for gubernatorial elections. So I think their campaign, and then they have Chris Russell, who's running their campaign, running Jack's campaign, who I've worked with in the past. They understand the importance of the grassroots. They understand the importance of the new media. They also understand the importance of the traditional media. What you worry about is they were outspent for a while there, but I think that the resources are slowly but surely coming in for Jack. So I think they've got all the components that you need in a good campaign. But most of all, They have a really good candidate in Jack Ciattarelli, and Jack Ciattarelli has a good message. Because I always tell people, you can have all the mechanics in the world, but if you don't have the infrastructure, it was just like Donald Trump's campaign. For the first time this time, we had all that stuff together. We had a great candidate, great message. Susie Wiles, Chris Malasavita, they put together an incredible infrastructure, and it all came together. And hopefully, I think that's happening right now in New Jersey, even though the Democrats have a registration advantage.
Yeah, you need the message and the mechanics. Let's move north. I've joked about this on the morning meeting every day when I do this, that like Mamdani is the mayor of New York. It's a done deal. But since you and I last spoke, there's been some movement. The current mayor, Eric Adams, dropped out. That leaves the black vote up for grabs. You have a three-way race, right? Curtis Sliwa, the Republican, former disgraced Governor Andrew Cuomo, and Mamdani, the socialist. So since Adams dropped out, the theory was that people would consolidate around Cuomo. It could pose a threat to Mamdani. I don't see it, Jim. I just don't see it. Yeah. I think Mamdani is 100% going to be the next mayor. Do you put that number at 100% or less?
I never say never. So I wouldn't say 100%, but it's probably about 90% plus when it's all said and done. And look, you know what? It's the classic example of campaigns and candidates do matter. You have to have somebody to beat somebody. And I don't think a lot of people realize what a bad candidate and what a bad record that Andrew Cuomo had. He basically had a fawning press for all these years, and they kind of gave him a pass. And remember, they were trying to tell us this guy could be president during COVID, but he never had to answer the tough questions. And then when he had a bad record, he hasn't been a good candidate. Curtis Sliwa, unfortunately, he made a big mistake by not trying to figure out how to appeal to Trump voters. And I get it.
What do you mean by that? Whoa. What I thought he was all about the Trump voter. What do you mean by that?
Oh, no, he has actually done things that have distanced himself from the Trump voters. He said, and by the way, he wasn't supporting Donald Trump in the primary. He was supporting Ron DeSantis in the Republican primary. And that's why Donald Trump has said, look, I don't even know the guy. And he said, and by the way, the reason why it's really stupid, one of the polls I was looking at, Donald Trump, Curtis Sliwa, he's only getting like 56, 57% of the Trump voters in the election for mayor. He's only getting about half of the Republican voters. You don't get Republicans to turn out and vote for you by trashing Donald Trump. He's got a 90% plus job approval rating among the Republican voters. And think about this. I'm going to give you some numbers here, okay? Yeah. Donald Trump got 1 million voters, even though obviously he lost in New York City, and he lost, to Kamala Harris. I think it was like, she got 66% of the vote. He got 31% of the vote, but he got almost 1 million voters in New York City. Last time Sliwa ran, he only got 312,000 votes. That's it. So if I'm Curtis Sliwa, I'm trying to figure out a way to get those other 700,000 voters that voted for Donald Trump and make sure I can kind of skew turnout. That's how he puts together a winning coalition in New York. And then he can get some of those anti-Mamdani Democrats. He can get the vast majority of those independents who aren't socialists, who don't want to vote for a Mamdani. That's how he puts the coalition together. Think about this. Right after the presidential election last time, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, and look, we hate her politics. She is a socialist. She's a Marxist for all intents and purposes. But what was one of the things she said after the election? Because Donald Trump, one of his most improved congressional districts in America was AOC's district that takes up the Bronx. And she knew it. There were working class voters in her district that voted for Donald Trump over Kamala Harris. And those are the people that Curtis Sliwa needed to appeal to. And he just hasn't done a good job. He hasn't connected with the electorate.
So as you're saying this, I'm Googling. Do you know how many votes Eric Adams won the election with when he won last time?
Yeah, less than 1 million votes.
Less than a million votes, 754,000. So if Sleewood got all those Donald Trump voters, he'd be the next mayor. It's a brilliant point. I love Jim McLaughlin. This is why Jim McLaughlin's always.
And he didn't need to get all those Trump voters. And realistically, they're not all good. But he probably could have won in the low 40s versus Mamdani. And by the way, the other mistake that they did is the press, because they can't help themselves, because Mamdani actually has a D next to his name when it comes to the election. He won the Democratic primary, so they all fell in. They're telling us he's a rising star and all this other kind of stuff. People don't realize how extreme he is. They don't realize he wants to get rid of prisons. He wants to, for all intents and purposes, get rid of the police. These people in New York, they already get it, how bad cashless bail was, how bad defunding the police was. This guy, they've got him screaming on camera, calling cops bigots and racists and all that other kind of stuff. Instead of, like, when you have a domestic violence problem in your house, and any police officer will tell you that's probably one of the most dangerous things that any officer could go to, because they don't know what they're dealing with. He goes, when you go into a drug den, they know what they're dealing with. But they want to send social workers to that stuff.
I know.
They literally want to defang the police in New York City. And look, we've been having some success. Crime is going down a little bit because they have a good police commissioner there in Jessica Tisch. And thanks to Donald Trump, Eric Adams started to get tough on immigration, and he started to get tough on crime. So there were making some small steps there. This guy, Mamdani, he is going to be a disaster. And by the way, he said his goal isn't just to make New York City a socialist city, but to make other parts of America a socialist city. And it scares the heck out of me, because we're basically emboldening these anti-American socialists that are trying to take over our country.
So I want to hit Virginia and then the government shutdown quickly. In Virginia, look, it's personal to me. You live in New Jersey. It's personal to you. I believe that what happened with the J. Jones scandal, these text messages come out saying that I want to kill Todd Gilbert, use 2 bullets to kill him, the former Virginia Republican Speaker of the House of Delegates. And then I want his wife to watch his dead child die in his arms so that he'll, and then, by the way, there's rumors about what he said about cops. He broke the law and then the problem is Abigail Spanberger, who is running against Winsome Sears, I think has refused to sort of back away from him. She's still endorsing him. Yeah. I believe the following, Jim. The state of the race is this. Jason Mayares, the Republican current incumbent attorney general, up in the latest Trafalgar poll outside the margin of error. John Reed, the lieutenant governor, it's a dead even race. Winsome Sears down 2. But here's what I want you to weigh in on. The wave is going towards the beach with all the Republicans surfing in towards it. The Democrats, each one of them trying to hold back that same wave, saying, no, don't let it crash on me. People tell me I'm nuts that Winsome Sears cannot win, but I believe you're 2 points down, 20 days out, and the wave is going with you, you're going to win. What do you tell me?
Look, and I haven't seen any of my own statewide polls, but I'm with Sean Spicer on this one, and then some. And I'll give you a real world example. Remember the Trump-Biden debate, and remember the day after, Barack Obama and Jill Biden, they were all telling us how Joe Biden actually won the debate, and he did good. Then a couple days later, they were like, well, I think Barack Obama put out the tweet, we've all had a bad day and blah, blah, blah. And then they finally got him out a month later. Was because it took, and that was going into the July 4th holiday, it took time for public opinion to really set in on that. I think basically, if you're looking at the J. Jones scandal that's happened here, it was only about 10 days ago. And I think, and the broadcast networks, the mainstream media, they've tried to say that this isn't happening, and there's nothing to see here and whatnot. But you're seeing on conservative media, you're seeing on social media, it's out there every day. And the Democrats, to your point, Abigail Spanberger, she is trying to defend the indefensible. And if you look at it, the Trafalgar poll, which I think is the most recent poll that I've seen that just came out, They've got Miyares, by the way, Jason Miyares, who is a great attorney general, an incredible candidate. I think if he was probably running for governor, we might actually be ahead in that one right now. He's up by 6 points now. So according to the Trafalgar poll. So your point about it's going to bring it together, and I saw this happen. We saw this happen in the county executive race 4 years ago in Nassau County, where Bruce Blakeman, and we were running against Todd Kaminsky, who was actually running for DA, but he was one of the cashless bail defunding the police Democrats, and we used that to help us at the top of the ticket. So I think the Sean Spicer theory is right on the money. If I'm the Republicans, I go all in on this issue because it's terrible what they're doing here.
Yeah. Foot on the pedal. I've told all the candidates, talk about nothing else all day, every day. Robert Cahaley told me, he said, guys, it's not that TV, you got plenty of TV out there. You got to get the influencers, you got to do digital. And I've told each one of the candidates, foot on the pedal, do not stop talking about this issue.
Yep, you've got to go around the mainstream media because they don't want to talk about this.
Right. The last thing I want to ask you about, Jim, is we're in day 14 of government shutdown. No sight and end. There's a big No Kings conference that the Dems are holding out for this weekend. I want to just ask you purely, though, on a messaging standpoint, who is winning the government? And I know who should be winning, right? I get it. This is insane. The idea that the Democrats are holding it hostage. But they're claiming we want to talk about healthcare. And I think Republicans care about healthcare too. Marjorie Taylor Greene the other day said, hey, my premiums for the kids are going to go up. I have a business. My premiums for my employees are going to go up. I get it. So who's winning the shutdown argument?
Yeah, look, when you look at it right now, what we're seeing is, basically voters are even in terms of who they blame when it's all said and done. And it probably is going to be longer than it should be, and it's terrible. It's all the Democrats, for all intents and purposes. You only have one Republican in the Senate who is voting for a shutdown. None of the Republicans in the House, as best as I can tell, are voting for a shutdown here. This is the Democrat shutdown. It's Hakeem Jeffries. It's Chuck Schumer's shutdown when it's all said and done. And what are they fighting for? They're fighting for another $1.5 trillion for just in more crazy spending. And they literally want more welfare benefits for illegals. And they're going to have to defend this stuff in the campaign. Because remember how unpopular the media and the Democrats were telling us the big, beautiful bill was in the elections, was to the American people? They've kind of gotten off that message because they realized when they opposed the big, beautiful bill, they opposed a lot of really popular stuff. And I think you're going to see the same thing that is eventually going to happen because it's not the Republicans that are shutting down the government. It's the Democrats. And I think the other thing is this, you got Chuck Schumer. It's all about politics. The reason why we have a shutdown here, and he says that things get better for them every single day of the shutdown. I mean, he said the quiet part out loud. The reason why he's going for a shutdown here, when he basically voted for the CR, he kind of led the Democrats to keep the government open only a few months ago. He's afraid of AOC taking him on in a primary and him losing. Hakeem Jeffries has a Zohran Mamdani, an AOC type acolyte that has already jumped into his primary. They are afraid of the radical left here that wants to continue to give welfare benefits to illegals. That's why they've decided to shut down the government. And usually when it's all said and done, the American people are they figure this stuff out. And the more we can put Schumer and Hakeem out there, the better off it is for the Republican Party.
I still can't believe that quote hasn't gotten more play because I think the media is totally covering up. But when Schumer said, literally, it gets better for us every day. Yeah. I mean, the Republicans should be putting that on the air all the time, using all this money that we've racked up because they need to understand that the media is not going to replay that quote for them, right? I mean, that's amazing.
And look, I think they should be talking about it every single day because Chuck Schumer, he slipped on that, and he wasn't talking to moderate Democrats. He wasn't talking to independent Democrats on that. And I think one of the voices of reason on this has been John Fetterman. John Fetterman's been voting to keep the government open. A couple other Democrats in the Senate have been voting with the Republicans. The only real bipartisanship you're seeing on this is between the Republicans and a couple sane Democrats who want to keep the government open. It's all about politics at the end of the day. And who Chuck Schumer was talking about there, he was talking to the AOC Mamdani radical left.
Yeah, he's watching his flank. Jim McLaughlin, always love talking to you and making sure that my compass is pointed in the right direction. So thank you for being here. I appreciate all the work. And by the way, just a real quick congratulations. I had Robert Cahaley on the other day. He said how great he thinks of what you guys do at your polling group there, and that you're part of this new consortium of really smart group of people that we can count on when you release polls. So it means a lot to know. People need to know that you're part of that great group of trusted pollsters.
No, thank you. And I love Robert does great work with over at Trafalgar. And you know what? We still got a lot more work to do, because you see these Democratic polls, especially on the shutdown, they're telling you, oh, the Democrats, they're blaming the Republicans more. Well, the survey that they're releasing, they're telling you only about 30% of the people in their sample actually voted for Donald Trump. Last I checked, he got about 50% of the vote and he won the election. But that's not what we see in their polls. So they're still cooking the books, Sean.
They're still cooking them. All right, we got 20 days to go. I'm sure we'll get you back before Election Day. Thanks, Jim.
Looking forward to it. Always a pleasure.
Thank you. All right, what a great show. Such insight from Jim McLaughlin on the latest polling statistics. And later this week, tomorrow, Eric Schmidt, the senator from Missouri, and Glenn Beck. Friday, Stephen K. Bannon. That's why you always hit that subscribe and notification button. A great new newsletter drops today at SeanSpicer.com. So hit that, go there and subscribe to that newsletter. Share it with 5 friends. And as we head out tonight, a tribute to Charlie Kirk on his 32nd birthday and the day that President Trump honored him with the Medal of Freedom. Thanks for watching. We'll see you back here tomorrow. Well, if you enjoyed this content, make sure to like this video, subscribe, and click the notification bell to get more.